final, never leave a trace. Blockchain, block party, meeting face to face. Best builders in the game, working at their pace. Scrolling through the tickers, wallet loaded, ready. Diving in deep, keep the mindset steady. Builders stacking code like Tetris blocks. Innovators pushing boundaries, no padlocks. Mining for diamonds.
Welcome everyone to another edition of Late Night on Base. I have Eric from Ebert. He's laughing. I think he's vibing with the intro. How'd you like it?
Not expecting that, and I was vibing over here. That was amazing,
dude. I'm
Dude,
telling you,
slapped.
I think it slapped too. I think it slapped too. I'm a fan of the new intro theme music. Thank you, AI technology,
Beautiful,
for allowing this. AI is just crazy. We could get into that another day, but more importantly, I'm stoked to have Eric from Ebert on the show because this one's cool because I've seen Ebert. He's been on the podcast in its inception. 8 months later, they're still grinding. They're still pushing the limits of what they can do. And I think that is so amazing because they are a good example of how things take time, but you don't quit. You don't give up. You keep growing. You keep pushing. You get better day in and day out. And that is what Ebert's doing. So I'm really happy to do this follow-up episode to learn more. But Eric, how are you today, my friend?
Today's great. Today's I'm down in Central America. Today's a sunny day. I got a good night of sleep, which is rare because I have a little Bert. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling really healthy. I'm feeling really happy. And I'm loving what's happening right now in our world with Who is Ebert. I think that it's been a big buildup to getting to a stage that makes me feel very alive. And I've been basically living in an edit bay for like the last few weeks, kind of wrapping up some of like a couple of really big media assets that we're going to be using for some really big moves in the near future. So it's a crazy follow up too, because it's really wild to see someone at the beginning of our journey on base and then kind of at this juncture, which there's a lot changing. There's a lot of new, there's a lot of old. There's a lot of turmoil in the market, in the world, but it's kind of a nice, it's nice to come back to familiar faces. So just wanted to thank you for having us on and good to see you again.
Of course, pleasure's all mine, though, and I'm going to continue to be with you guys on the journey as you keep growing and growing because I'm invested in seeing how you guys do. But real quick, before we dive into what's new in the Ebert land and all that, because I want to know, there might be some viewers for the first time coming across you and Ebert, and they don't know. Maybe they're listening on pods, maybe they're listening on Spotify, YouTube. I don't know. They didn't see our first episode. So quickly, I guess, briefly describe, for those that don't know, what is Ebert?
So Who is Ebert is a character franchise, but born in Web3. So the way that I've been explaining it in really simple terms is, what if you could go back and buy a piece of Toy Story, like from the very beginning? What if you could have a slice of that from the very beginning and own a small piece of that IP? So Who is Ebert is kind of part of, I think, the new wave of original IP franchises. And instead of launching in a traditional Web 2 fashion like I would have done in my past career, we decided to kind of leverage Web 3 technology to grow the franchise and to offer the IP to the public in the form of a token. So it lives under obviously a larger umbrella, which is Muon Productions. But Who is Ebert is really our first, let's call it a property. Ebert he's an enigmatic being from we don't know where, and he visits Earth and interfaces with humans, and that's kind of what his stories are based on. And we've been in development on Ebert specifically for about 3 to 4 years, really since late 2020, so I guess even more now. And then we're really starting to kind of ramp up production with some of our recent announcements with the partners that we've made in the space and elsewhere. So Ebert as a token is a representation of the character's IP. So you hold the token, you hold the IP, and if you hold the IP, you hold the value. So that's kind of how we see it. And that's really the push that we're making. We think that the IP space, if you want to call it the IP meme space or the creative coins or whatever you want to call it, I feel is a little thin right now. Sure. And I think that when you see the success stories of Pudgies and you see Doodles and you see some of these original franchises doing real things that real franchises would do, breaking the confines of the Web3 echo chamber, I think that the upside that we're seeing is really promising, just given all the legwork that we've done.
Absolutely. And I think the IP is something that's incredibly important to have future growth and plans for success. And I think that's what's going to take, projects to become the next Peggies. That's going to take it to have its own sustainable bull market eventually, regardless of what crypto does. You have to own the IP. And that's one of the things with Ebert. It's just a beautiful thing. It's not a derivative. It's its own thing. But yeah, so a lot's been changing. We had you on the podcast 8 months ago or so. And I'm very proud to see how far you've become, how much you've grinded. I just love seeing that. So talk to us. What is new in Ebert land? Let us know, Eric, what's going on. What are you guys cooking? Talk to us. What's up right now?
It started cut in, but the most recent thing that we announced yesterday is we actually sent an NFT to the moon and received it back on Earth.
Bro,
And it actually happened. Our one of our team members has some pretty good connections with the Deep Space Exploration Society. And he's been kind of working on the concept of sending a digital collectible to the moon in the form of a wave. Wow. So we've been working on this for a couple months. It's kind of just a fun thing. It's just this thing that we were able to do. So we just announced that yesterday, and there are 4,444 replicas of the actual image that touched the lunar surface that you can mint for free on the Who is Ebert website. And there you just have to pay gas. Sorry. So it's not technically free, but it's free because of base low fees and all that good stuff. But yeah, we just announced that yesterday. But I think that when it comes to character development and franchises and things like that, there's a lot of new and there's a lot of updates. But some of the fun stuff that we do, kind of rooted in that Web3 culture of just hype and craziness, is stuff like this. It's just stuff that we know we can knock out of the park and have a lot of fun with. And our community is just, they're hyped. People are really hyped up. And this is one of many, I think, community activations that we've done in the past, 6 to 8 months. We've really been refining the way that we activate the community on a weekly basis. And then sometimes we swing big like this. And this was definitely a big swing. And I think that the PR will kind of continue throughout the next few days. So you might be seeing a little bit more of this story surface on social.
I mean, this is incredible. I actually am going to, once we're done later today, I'll be resharing this as well. You guys literally sent it to the moon. Ebert has been on the moon. That's insane.
Ebert smacked the surface of the moon and then reflected back to Earth. And a ham radio operator in Holland told us that he received it back on Earth. So you can actually do this. Like you can take a picture and you can turn it into a wave and then blast it out of a satellite at a planetary body. So you can send it to the moon. And I know that there have been projects who have sent things to the moon. Put like some tokens on a floppy, on a floppy disk, or like on a hard drive or some sort of a USB stick, and sent it to the moon. But this is actually the first one to hit the moon, come back, and then we inscribed it forever on Ethereum through ETHscriptions. So it's kind of living, crystallized in Web3 history as the first digital collectible to ever be inscribed on Ethereum that touched the moon and came back.
That's so cool. That's like a lot of historical value. How does it feel to see that come into play? It must be a proud moment for you.
It was cool. It was really fun to make the picture. I think that the art has evolved so much in Who is Ebert, and we recently made a big shift from 2D art, which is a lot of the art that I created over the years, into a 3D environment. So our artwork has been drastically changing. And this is really kind of representative to me of a bit of a moment in time. And I really do remember the phase of my life I was in when I drew this image, and what that process felt like sending it up there. So if you're on the website, if you scroll all the way down, you'll see the moon thing. Oh no, you just went through it.
Oh, let's see.
You went faster than the picture went to the moon, a little higher.
Oh, dope. Let's see.
Next, right above this. Yeah, so this is it.
Wow, mint now. Home, what the moon gave us back, what we beamed up. So you can mint now, one of the first 2 images ever to be sent to the moon and inscribed on chain. You can mint for free?
It's a free mint, yeah. We're still working on the layout. I think it's getting a little funky with responsiveness on web, but web development is always a task, as you know. But the DApp is fully built, so We had a couple of really key partners help us build a custom DApp. So everything is built ground up. We also have an integrated swap into the website now, so you can swap directly on the website with on-chain kit. That's kind of a prereq, I would say,
cool.
for a base project. But this one specifically is a custom DApp, so you can mint it directly from here, and it'll appear in your wallet. So yeah, you'd have to connect, but it's
let's do it. I want to connect live on stream support.
hit it, boy.
Let's go. All right, let's see. Connect wallet.
Get yourself a moon bounce.
Bro, let's go.
The term moon bounce has been coined in our community.
Let's go. You know, hopefully it doesn't drain my wallet, but hey, I trust you. Let's go.
Nope.
Got a little ETH in here. All right. So what do I do? Mint now.
You just go to mint now.
Let's go. All right. Let's see. I have my wallet connected. Mint now. It's not popping up though. I'm sure I could figure it out.
I would do a page refresh.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. This is actually a good test. See how other people go through it.
Okay. Yeah.
There you
I
go.
mean, that's what I'm here to do. Oh, Moonic Mint installation. Confirm. Moon bounce. Boom. It's been a success.
So you officially have a piece of the moon in your wallet.
I'm stoked for that. I have, and it's free. It was literally free, man. It's like maybe whatever minuscule gas cost it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's, I think that a few hundred of them, I think, have been minted so far. But they're just there. You know, I think that, you know, the way that I look at it, and I mentioned this before, I've been so wrapped up in a lot of production stuff. Like like last time you and I spoke live on one of these, is I kind of gave you a bit about my background. I have a TV and film background. So the production pipeline is really where I'm most comfortable. And that's really been my life for really the last, I'd say, 6 to 8 weeks. When we delivered, we partnered with a studio in France called Umeshu Lovers. And they helped us with all of our modeling, rigging, texturing, UV unwrapping, and basically kind of getting our characters really animation ready. And then from there, once that was kind of delivered, it was a little bit of like, okay, let's go. And it was kind of like, all right, we're off to the races now. And we immediately started working with one of our other partners, Atrium Animation, doing, you know, all different sorts of animated content, and specifically working on a proof of concept. And proofs of concepts for IPs are very, very important pieces of media. It could be the difference between you being fundraised or not, right? Just given not only the quality of the piece of media, but if it's good, you know, if it's just, if it's fun and enjoyable to watch. So it's been in the works really since we launched. And it kind of combines a lot of different things about Ebert's lore, and it's about a 2.5-3 minute piece of media. And that should be coming out probably within the next, I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
But it's, you know, that for us is going to be a huge milestone, because that's really the point where, you know, we go from kind of just like static artwork, small animations, things like this, to kind of like, oh no, this is they're making a real show. Which is, I think that's kind of the moment that people will see like, oh, like this is actually going to be a movie, or like this is actually going to be a TV series. And when you watch the tease, I was going to send it to you today, but there are so many moving parts in these types of, like, really the 3D pipeline, that if one part's not fully finished and it's going to be finished tomorrow morning, I don't want to have 3 artists start rendering their work out, right? So we kind of have to, you know, play timelines with each other. So that's why I couldn't share it to you today, but maybe even like this weekend. And
anytime, man.
We've been sharing it around to some key people, and it's people are hyped. So I think that, you know, we're doing something so different, and it gets me really excited to talk about it. But it's, you know, as far as our updates and the things that we do goes, it's just we're constantly doing things. Not only producing, you know, a 3D world with this 3D character, but like, you know, I think we're in our 20th episode of a weekly show. We do, you know, big community activations and partnerships. We've started with, you know, like Cody Fight and certain games in the Web3 space. Like we're starting to, you know, really hit some of those inflection points with people. And I think a lot of it's just because we've been around, you know, we've been pushing, and we've been here, and we've been present. So I guess that's kind of in a nutshell, some of the things that we've been up to. I literally love it. And if you guys are on Spotify, head over to YouTube, or at least on Pods or something, to look at the visuals. I mean, just the website alone is just beautiful. I've seen a lot of websites. This was not something easy to do. You can't just WordPress this thing. This is legitimately a beautiful, beautiful thing. So I want people to see that.
Dude, I can't. And it's something cool about you guys. There's a lot of things cool, but like just doing unique things, having the IP, creating the show, all these things are just gonna be massive, especially when base starts running, and it hasn't ran at all. Like everything is kind of dead. But talk to me, Eric, because it's incredibly important for other entrepreneurs and builders. You've survived 8 months, just focused on the product, not worrying about the noise, not worrying about price. 99.9% of people in your position, honestly, probably would have called it quits. They don't have the long-term thinking. You, on the other hand, do. You're still surviving, you're grinding, you're thriving. And I know you're going to be positioned for when base explodes, you guys are going to be right at the forefront of doing well. Talk to us the mindset that you have to sustain yourself for 8 months and not let the external factors such as the price affect you.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a really great question. Before I had this kind of in the queue to send to you in TG, by the way, just kind of like a quick still of some of our work in progress stuff.
You can still send it. I'll share it. And I'll like.
Okay. Yeah. You're more than welcome to. There's no environment, there's no anything, but we're starting to kind of see some of the low poly 3D stuff come through. So I was just going to share that over in case you wanted to take a peek.
Of course.
Yeah, I think the most important thing to mention is that Who is Ebert would exist with or without Web3. So it's really not. And again, I don't want to sound arrogant. Web3 is really giving us a reason to build this way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's not so much the volatility and movement of volume in the space that most people kind of associate crypto with. It's really the technology that we wanted to use to disrupt an industry that needs disrupting. The TV and film industry to me is very broken. I worked in it for 12 years. I worked on, I did, all different sorts of big shows, small shows, independent shows,
Why is it
network
broken?
television. I feel like there's a lot of hierarchical red tape in the industry. And especially when it comes to new creators, I think new creators have a hard time, I'd say, breaking down the door of whether it's the people in the suits that kind of call the shots, even though they're not wearing suits, but there's a lot of red tape. And I think that normally in that industry, narratives, political narratives, geopolitical narratives, like just so many things start to get wrapped into the why of what you're doing. And if you're a creative in that industry, you better bet your ass that there are going to be people in your ear, especially if they're funding your project, telling you what they think you should say. And I think that I saw that so much when I was working really professionally in New York in post-production, whether it was in the commercial world, really in the commercial world, but also in the feature film world. There's a lot of, I'd say, kind of bumpers that are put around directors when a network or a big production company is backing them.
Yeah.
So I have a character here that touches on subjects that I don't think network TV would really want to touch. We talk about consciousness. We talk about psychedelics. We talk about meditation. We talk about all different sorts of mindfulness practices. We talk about our connection to the cosmos. We talk about extraterrestrials. We talk about spirituality and plant medicine and just everything.
Sure.
And a lot of those themes are wrapped into how Ebert interacts with humans on Earth. It's in the writing. And as I was writing this really in 21, 22, I knew that I wouldn't be able to make this, under a traditional umbrella. I just knew that. So kind of a freedom of creative voice was part of the purpose of going this direction. So I kind of root myself to that, knowing that it's really the reason that I am here. And the market swings and the volatility and the Bybit, hacks and the things that happen on the day to day, they don't necessarily impede on the purpose of what I'm doing. What I'm doing is trying to build an empire that disrupts an industry that I came from, that I was disenchanted by, and that I felt I would have been hampered by had I tried to build this in that way. So that's kind of the, maybe the ethos that I follow when it comes to, okay, well, the going is always going to get tough.
Sure.
But 3D animation takes time. It's why Pixar takes 4 years to make a film. I think a lot of that is politics and a lot of that is kind of antics of that industry. But I also think that things really do take time. And I'm totally comfortable with building things over time because I've built businesses in the past. And, the fact that I'm even looking at this little guy on the screen now after years of thinking about him, is a sign that it is possible to build something real in Web3. It is possible to take your creation and crystallize it on chain and offer it to the world and, have success in doing that. So, that's kind of I guess the core and the purpose of what I pull myself back to when days are tough, and days are tough, and that, I know that.
Sure.
So
That's like a true why. And I think everyone needs to have their own inner why. Why are they doing what they're doing? In your case, it's a very powerful why. It's fixing a system that needs change. And you experience firsthand what it's like. And you're probably right. I mean, all the topics you've described are somewhat outside the mainstream, typical quote unquote what is acceptable. I mean, the topics you've described are things I love. I love all those things. Aliens, I love talking about spirituality, wellness, meditation, astral projecting. I did a podcast with one of my friends about just literally talking about
amazing.
astral projecting, stuff like that. I would love to do ayahuasca, things. I have an open mind, but like you're still kind of restrained in the Web 2 world by, who funds you, and you kind of have to play that line. But when you come to Web 3 and you're able to truly express yourself, that's powerful. So that is your why. And I think that's a very, very powerful why, if I might add.
Yeah, it has to be. And I love like the open-mindedness. I think what's cool, I just sent you more stuff. I'm sorry, I had to.
No, no, please.
I think what's cool about this space is that not only are there a lot of people who think in similar ways as we do, having open-mindedness, being open to change, being open to reform on a global scale as far as the monetary policy goes. That's the beginning of it. But then beyond that, I feel like so many of the people that I've met through this journey, this 8-month journey of launching, creating, and founding a company on chain in Web3, I feel like I've kind of found myself more often than not. The people who, and I think that we had this term with a director I used to work with who was like, the audience, like your film will find your audience, like your audience will find it, like they'll seek it out and find it too. Like I think that really the people who want to see this succeed and understand what we are trying to do have listened to our message. They stick around because they understand what we're trying to build, and they also think in similar ways. Like you're open-minded. You and I have had great conversations in the past 8 months because we both see things kind of from a similar perspective. Like, yeah, there might be things that we're not completely conjoined on, but at the same time, that's what community is for, to kind of let those ideas rise to the top and let people discuss them. So I just think that it's really cool to see kind of yourself, or like these mirrors of yourself on the other side of your community members and the people that tend to revolve around projects that they love. And what we have seen is, and this is, I think, one of the coolest parts is, our community has been growing, and obviously it's slowed because I think people do tend to lose interest in these lower periods, but we've had so many people stick around. And I think that we've awarded over, I think, 60 honorary Berts at this point, which is something that we tend to do every week. Depends on the week. But those people, for the most part, have stuck around, and they're interested in seeing what we have going on behind the scenes. They're in the alpha group. They get the drops. They understand what we're building. They see how meticulous some of this stuff is. This image here that you're looking at took months to make. Months. And that was multiple iterations of Ebert's model and height and, bust size and shoulder width and all different sorts of things that, okay, when we take him from 2D to 3D, what does that look like? And will people even recognize him on the other side? And until we really, looked at each other and said, I think we found him, it was a months-long process. So, that's why, I think the best animated feature films and the best animated shows in the world take time. Arcane took time. But I think the important part about some of these IPs is that, it was the proof of concept for Arcane that actually got Christian the funding that he needed. So I think that, there are certain devices that I think we are really working towards as a company that will really change, I think, the dynamic of how people see what an original IP project is capable of in Web3. Because I think we're about to, I don't know, I think we're about to break things in
No,
a way.
I think you're gonna set a standard, and like you probably don't see too many IP models like what you're doing, brands, companies, because it's not easy. You know, a meme, anyone could create a meme. Let's be honest, like 10 seconds, like Solana's point of view, pump fun. You can easily do that. Those aren't sustainable. What you guys are doing is you're creating a whole brand. You're creating something that, as you just said, months to make that character. Most people can't do it. Most people don't have expertise. Most people don't have the patience, but you do because you see where you're going. And as I told you on the first time you appeared on the podcast, you made the best choice to come onto base because base is going to allow you the opportunity to grow, and you're going to have community members that stay around that are willing to see you grow and see what happens versus other chains. It's just too much like, hey, when are you going to moon in the next week? Otherwise we're out. And so base is much more serious. So far, has base exceeded your expectations personally, as a chain when it comes to community growth and maybe support? Like, what are your thoughts on base so far, 8 months in?
I'm a little mixed, to be honest.
Tell me.
I think that in general, one of the biggest things that tends to be why I continue to support base and why I continue to kind of share their message with my colleagues and people that I work with is that their main mission seems to be onboarding people from Web 2, like bringing people on chain. That is the message. That's what they want to do. They want to make it as easy as possible. And sometimes those things take time. Making the process simple is one of the most complex jobs you could probably have. But I think that as a project on base, what we've been able to see is kind of where base's attention tends to go. And we've been here for 8 months every single day, mind you. So we've had a lot of insight into where their attention goes, why it goes there, and kind of what the effect of that is for the ecosystem of the projects that are still building on base. For me personally, as a founder, I do feel like the attention sways a bit on base, and that they talk a lot about supporting builders. And I think there's a type of builder that they tend to support, and builders like me, I can't crack open React and code a website. I can barely get, just an ERC20 contract written. Like I have a lot of limitations as far as an on-chain builder goes. But I'm trying to build something different, and I'm trying to build something real. And I'm also trying to break down the barriers of the Web 2 to Web 3 wall. And I feel like I've been really outspoken about that, especially on Space from the Deep. We talk about it every week. We talk about it every week, 20 episodes now. And we do talk about it. We've seen Jesse has bought some of our token. I think that, we have people in our community who I think have ties to him who said, hey, you might want to get some of this token. He picked some up. And that was an interesting experience because our market cap skyrocketed to about $2 million. And our core community kind of hung on. They were like, cool, I guess we're going. And then most of the people that, copy traded Jesse just like sold off and, crashed our market cap back down. So, that type of volatility, based on one individual can be a risk for projects in the space to not only lose relevancy, but to also lose the trust of their own communities. When you have, someone who is, assuming to kind of have a lot of influence right now. And again, not to disparage anyone, not to disparage Jesse, especially because he's the reason we're here. But I think that the main criticisms I've had are really where the attention of base seems to be going. And really when real builders like, there are many real builders who have been here very consistently who don't really get any support.
Where do you think the attention is going? Just to like dev?
AI. I mean, there's so much attention toward AI. Like I think Clanker was like is and I think continues to be such a big thing. And AI tokens are huge now. Creative coins on Zora. It feels like okay, here's the next shiny thing. Here's the next shiny thing. And it's almost, for me, it's kind of like, well, just focus on the main thing. Sure. It's like all this stuff is great and all the building is great, but you can kind of see like a little bit of favoritism, and that's, nobody's perfect and no blockchain is perfect. But I think that every founder, if there were founders that were just like, no, it's great. I feel like those are those are probably the people who would quit.
For
Those are
sure.
probably the people who are like, all right, no, like, fuck this. Like, I think for us, it's like, well, okay, we have our gripes, but we're not wed to base. Like I said before, Who is Ebert and Muon would exist with or without base, with or without crypto.
Yep.
I think that I've built businesses in the past and done fundraising for film projects in the past. Like, I know what I'm doing in that world. The Web3 element, I think, is where we break rules and innovate. But yeah, I think that's a little bit of my thoughts. I could go on for too
No,
long.
I appreciate the candid honesty. I mean, it's not all roses. I mean, there are things, from a perspective that I think base could do better. There's things that they do great. I've been pretty outspoken on the sense of like, they have shown some interest to, it's kind of like a big boys club for certain projects. It's like they get listed day one Coinbase. It's because Coinbase people have like worked for them, and I've called
Yeah.
them out on it. I think it's a little unscrupulous in that sense. They're not perfect, and I know, some of the things that Jesse pushes for, all the things that he did is good. There are things like I just don't understand. I don't understand the Zora push to get coins on, as like, I just don't understand that whatsoever. And I do feel that some of the builders that have been in the trenches for 8 months since I've been around, since June, July, August, those are the ones that they should focus on. And I think, listen, I think at the end of the day, actions speak louder than words. And I know like someone like you is going to still succeed, because once you fulfill your mission, then they're going to start seeing what you're doing and you're going to get the support. So for some, it's just a matter of like a little more patience, I guess you could say.
100%. And you have to think about it this way too. Like, a lot of my perspective, and a lot of my opinions about the blockchain that Ebert as a token is based on, they don't really affect what our main goals are.
Yeah.
What we're doing is, we're building a character franchise in Web3, right? It's a character that you can buy a piece of. And
Yeah.
by holding that token, whatever money that character property makes, whether it's merchandise distribution, streaming, licensing, part of that goes back to the token holders. That's the novel approach. The thing that we are building also is that Who is Ebert doesn't necessarily need to be the only property that Muon has. What if we have 10 different properties? They're all original IPs that are all trademarked and copyrighted, right? And then within that umbrella, each one of them has a token, right? So I think that what we want to do is build the Web3 Pixar and make it fair for everyone to be able to participate. And that for me doesn't change. And I think that those tokens can live anywhere. And I think that, for us, we're a business and we want to be able to support our team. We have a team of 6 people now, and it's growing. And there are people who want to work for us, and they're seeing our art and they're saying, "Shit, like this looks really good. You guys need you need this, you need this, you need this." And that's been constant, but I think that we're building a core team of people that we want to continue supporting, give them more serious positions, and we're building a real business. And yes, like, some of the things that we're building don't necessarily tie directly into, okay, we're minting this thing on Zora and this is why it's great. And yeah, okay, I'm incapable time-wise to jump on some of those bandwagons.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it doesn't stop what we're trying to make. And I think that's the main point, is that we'll be building it regardless. And yeah, we'll be here no matter what.
And I know you will be. If the last 8 months have shown you guys are here to stay, and you guys are here to prove a point, and I have no doubt that you guys are going to be one of the few that just make it to the top. I put
Thanks.
faith in founders like you who just show up day in, day out. Eric, man, this has been an amazing episode. We've gone past our timeline. I could easily talk to you for more, but bro, any last words that you have? Floor is yours.
Man, tough question.
I bring the toughest ones.
I feel like I talk so much, but when it's kind of like, all right, what's the last message?
Anyone on the fence, anyone in your community, I'm sure, any rallying cry. Yeah, man, like, do you think, what would you say, I guess, how about this? What would you say to those that are maybe not necessarily concerned with the Ebert price, but just the market in general? The red days, there's been craziness. Prices are down all throughout. What would you say to them?
Don't forget why you're here. If you want to make money and you want to be in crypto and make money, it's not going to be easy. Toughen up. I think that,
Like it.
I think again, like it's shit is tough, and this is not an easy space to build in. And I think that every founder who listens to this, everybody who understands what that looks like, can sympathize with that. It's not easy. And there's a lot of bullshit that any founder would have to deal with in Web3 specifically that you wouldn't have to deal with in Web3. And part of the reason for that is because it is the Wild West still.
Yeah.
And because we are still very early to this kind of model of economics, that there are people like me who were in a world that sees opportunity to build something in a different and more distributed way. And it will take time for that to, I think, start to stick. And I think it's going to take time for people to understand why we're here. But I think that for the people who are already here, I think that it's just important to kind of remind yourself what you're doing and why you're doing it. The money part is a big one. And if you're a trader and you use, if you trade to make money, then yes, your mindset is different than builders, and your mindset is different than people like myself who are building things for the long term. We're trying to build a multi-cycle, multi-decade business. But everybody's different. But I also think that, stay strong and, just dig your feet into the ground. That's kind of what it feels like I need to say is dig your feet into the ground, stand your ground, and, don't get shaken out. It's one of those markets that wants to shake people out. You can tell, right? Like you can just tell, like we're in a state of the market right now where the fear of people, I'm sensing it with colleagues of mine. You can feel people are hurting. And we have to, as community members, as human beings, we have to sympathize and give grace to people for where they're at right now in their life. We have to give grace for people who are frustrated with the market, who are frustrated with the world, and just remind them that, we're here to support however we can. We're going to continue building however we can. We're going to make things to make the world better, more efficient, more fair, more distributed, and just overall a more positive human experience for everyone who's here. So yeah, that's I think that's probably a good note to leave it on, just because, not every market is a happy market, and markets are definitely a mirror of psychology on a mass scale. So you just want to give people love, and that's really what Ebert is here for too. He's kind of just filled with it, and it's kind of what he really is in a way. Like he's really here to give love, and his curiosity is what kind of fuels us too. So I appreciate you very much for having us on again. And this is, hopefully one in a series, every quarter or every couple quarters where we're jumping back in, and I'll continue sharing with you guys along the way. And it's going to continue being an exciting journey because we're excited for the future.
Powerful words, Eric. Thanks, man, for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure. Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Always a pleasure. And we're definitely going to be running this back later. 100%. I'm so vested in your journey, and I know you're going to succeed. Guys, if you're watching this on Spotify, head over to YouTube. Of course, on YouTube, we're going to make sure to put Ebert's information on there, their X account, their website, so you can learn more if you don't know about them. You also have Late Night on Basis information as well. If you haven't done so, just like and subscribe. Helps me produce more banger content, and it's free. Great talking to base builders like Eric. I wish actually more developers and founders were like him. This is the mantra of what he embodies, is the mantra of what I like to see in a project and as a human. So got to give my flowers to him. Guys, until next time, touch base. Catch you on the next one on Late Night on Base. Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, Bill.